Schon gar nicht bei
Boom. 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 We're live, everybody. Hey, welcome to Red TV in conversation normally, but we're having conversations today. We are live right now on What's Your Big Ask? And hey, it's great to see you. Thank you for joining and tuning in. If you are tuning in for the very first time to watch Red TV, hey, really appreciate you being here. It's fantastic. I always enjoy bringing new people on board and finding out what we're doing here. We're trying to raise the bars is what we're trying to do. We're trying to raise all boats. We're trying to, tell the stories of people who need their voice amplified. And boy, do we have one for you today. Thank you so much. Please, if you like what you see and hear, please share with your network. It would be awesome for me. I'd appreciate it so much. And for Red TV, so that we could tell more of these great stories. It really means the world for you to be here. Gosh, this is a very interesting show today. I'm actually shaking a little bit. It's so meaningful when you get connected to people that have stories that just that shake you a little bit, and they remind you of why we're here. And I think this is a good demonstration of it today. So let's make sure that we use all of our positive energy and optimism and to share the message of helping this person right next to me right now. You know, the whole purpose of this show, I just want to say the concept of it is just what's your big ask. Sometimes we don't know how to go to our network and ask for tremendously important and big things in our life. And this is one of them. This is for sure. We are going to be talking about some pretty serious things here. We're going to try to keep it light as well. We're going to try to keep it educational. We want to make sure that it's not, this is certainly not a sad story. This is a very, very inspiring and optimistic story. And I think that we can all play a significant role in continuing this story. And I think that would be something we all sleep better with at night. Just want to let everybody know, just a little trigger warning. You know, we're going to be talking about medical conditions and things like that, and the anatomy and the body and things like that. And so, if those kinds of things trigger you, I just want to give you the heads up right now that we'll be talking about that, but we're going to try to keep it at the surface level. We're also going to try to dig in a little deeper than normal because we want to make sure that we educate as well. There's so much to learn about this subject matter. So many things that I research a lot of stuff. I just fascinated by so many things that we need to learn more about when it comes to the things we're going to talk about today. Let's get to the show. Let's get to the star of the show. I don't know this guy. I mean, I don't even know this guy. This is what's so fantastic. I love when this happens. Somebody reached out to me. Stefan, I don't know if he prefers Stefan, but I think it's Stefan we're going to refer to. I'll bring up his information in a little bit. But Stefan reached out to me, Kaplan, really good friend of this fine gentleman, of my guest. And he asked me, would you be able to, he's looking for people to tell his story, and would you be able to share his story? And as soon as he told me the context of what was happening here, I have no choice. This is how my soul works. I have no choice. It just reaches out to me, and it just grabbed me. And I just wanted to do my little piece and my little part in helping. So, hey, let's get to the context here of the whole show. It's going to be, again, it's a big ask we're talking about here, everybody. We're talking to this beautiful soul over there. I've never met this guy. I mean, literally, I connected him backstage, and then I just said, hey, hang in there. We're going live right now. And there you go. That's as much as I know about him. but I do know he has an amazing story, and I know that no one is defined by one thing in their life, and certainly he is not defined by this one thing that we're going to be talking about today. So, hey, let's do a proper introduction here. He calls himself an architect of humanity. I mean, if you want to hang out with anybody, you want to talk to an architect of humanity, purposeful connector. I mean, I love that. Anytime you talk about connecting people, a lifeaholic. I love that. I mean, I'm going to steal that. I'm just giving him heads up right now. Lifeaholic. Going to steal that somewhere down the road. And he's a recovering marketer. I love that. Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Tim, I appreciate that. So he's co-creator of Creating Is. So I want to talk to him about that a little bit. Life working. He's a speaker. He's a storyteller. He lives in the Tampa Bay area. Now, I'm in Calgary. I'm a hockey fan. Tampa Bay Lightning knocked out Calgary this year. But hey, I still love him. I still sending him all my love. It's okay. I'm not going to hold that against him. I'm going to be just very forgiving when it comes to that part. But I've been to Tampa before, and I love that area. I love the St. Pete's, Tampa Bay area. It's all fantastic. So let's get right to the big story here, everybody, and the big ask. I'm so excited to have him here. I'm excited just to meet the guy. So please welcome everybody. Tim McDonald, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Peter. I mean, I know we conversed a little bit via email, had a short phone conversation, and it's just great to see you.
Awesome. Likewise. You have a ton of energy and I just love it. So this is going to be a great conversation no matter what we're talking about. I so appreciate being connected to you, and I learned of your story, and I just wanted to do this and shed a little light on a very, very complex thing. It's complex, it's emotional. It covers so many different parts of our lives, and so we're not going to be able to touch on everything today, everybody, just so that you know. Again, we could have Tim on for many hours talking about multiple different parts of this story. The big ask here today, everybody, is literally we're going to talk about that. We're looking for a match. We're looking for somebody that might know somebody. There is a somebody out there, everybody, and we're looking for that person that would even give this some consideration or pass the story on to somebody else. And so that's what's super important. So, Tim, let's start with a simple question. The very first question, and I start with this with every show. So this is, hey, you and your family, is everyone okay, generally speaking? I know what we're going to be talking about today, but generally speaking.
I was going to say we are doing as well as we can be. And I think much better than 18 months ago, which I know we'll dive into this and people will understand why that is. But I think everything is going pretty well. Just living life, and that says just live.
I love it. It's going to be a great positive message today, no matter what happens today. And hey, I want to make sure everyone knows how, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're watching this through LinkedIn, this is how you can reach out to Tim. There's an A in there, Tim A. McDonald. So reach out to Tim. That way you can connect with him and further this conversation, or at least, again, if there's people that you can connect him with, the story, whatever you think would be beneficial. I'm sure that he'd love to hear from you. Tim, I didn't ask you before we went on the air. Is it okay I share your email address as well?
You can share my email, my phone number.
Absolutely.
I told you I am an open book.
Fantastic. Well, exactly. I want people to be able to reach out to you, timamcdonald@gmail.com. We're going to bring up his website anyway. We're going to show a lot of details about the website. And it's really, really important that we stay focused on, again, what the big ask is here is, everybody. And like I said, the big ask today is, we're looking for a liver donor. Now we're going to get into Tim's story and so on. We're looking for somebody somewhere down the line that this resonates with. Okay, so we're going to jump really quickly into a whole bunch of different things. And again, I want to make sure that I'll mention it one more time about the trigger warning. We're going to talk about medical conditions and the anatomy and all kinds of things. Okay, so hopefully keep that an open mind in the spirit of what we're trying to do is educate and so on. So let's before we start anything here, let's just make sure there's some people in the comments here. Look, there you go. Tim Sohn, good to see you, my friend. And this will resonate with Tim because, of course, Tim has his own show on LinkedIn and he broadcasts it elsewhere about cancer and the stories of cancer and so on. And so here you go. This is a story all about that. Beautiful melody. She's in the Boston, Massachusetts, well, not necessarily Boston. I'll keep saying the Massachusetts area. That's super cool New England accent. Always love that. She is an amazing person. So thank you, Melody. Appreciate that. This is the one that does not just talk the talk, but he's 100% walks the walk. And there you go. There's your friend right there, Stefan A. Kaplan. He's the gentleman that reached out to me, Tim. Please do tell right there who is this guy and why is he so
photo right here behind me too, the love ball.
Is that right? Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, that's one of his photos, and he's just been an amazing friend and supporter. Helped connect me with you, so we've known each other for almost a decade now, I think, and
wow,
online at first, and then just met in person, and just been friends ever since.
Oh man, well let me tell you something. I'll just share it straight out. You got an amazing friend right there. You
he is incredible. I
That's
mean, above and beyond.
Right. When you look back in your life, doesn't matter what part of your life you're in. You know, I've often said this to people. You can normally count your best friends on your thumbs. And sometimes you can count them on your nose. I mean, they're so rare to find people that will go to bat for you. And this gentleman right here has done that. So kudos to you, Stefan. I really appreciate you reaching out and telling me this story. And it's fantastic. Let's see who else is here cheering you on. There you go, Jennifer. So good to see you. Thank you so much. Yes, and be kind. Absolutely. That's what we're trying to do out here, everybody. We're just trying to be kind out there. That's what we're trying to do. Good to see Rose in the house. Hey, there you go. I mean, these might be some people of yours. I hope they are.
I know Rose. Yep.
Fantastic. I don't recognize you, Rose, but good to see you and nice to thank you for being here. And I see Paula is here. That must be someone else as well.
Yep. And these are all friends of both Stefans and I. So.
Oh, fantastic. And Sharon Short, thank you so much. Always good to see you. Yeah, that energy is infectious. This energy over here, he's absolutely amazing. So thank you for tuning in, though. It's a very important. And if for those who even received invites from me specifically about this show, if you received the invite is because you're a human and you know other humans, and this is a human story, and maybe there's a connection point somewhere down the road. And my gosh, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? That would be just an amazing thing. So thank you for everybody who's watching live right now. Let's get right to it, my big asker. Let's talk about you, Tim. There's so much to start with. I just want to give you this platform to be able to tell your story. There's normally I when I interview people, I dig deep into a whole bunch of different parts of their lives, but I really want to stay focused as much as I can, as curious as I am about all of that you do for a living and so on. Well, let's start there. Even your business right now. What are you doing right now for your business? And so when people reach out to you on LinkedIn, what's the connection point there? Just tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now.
Yeah, well, I have always been kind of a community builder, and I've done it for different organizations. Currently, I'm working for a startup called Homeroom. It's homeroom.club instead of .com. It's .club. I won't go too far in depth, but we just help companies and organizations either with strategy, platform, or services with community aspect. And I do that. I still do a lot of consulting, a lot of speaking, a lot of workshops on community building and how we bring people together, and really utilizing a lot of what I've learned and taking it to what my big ask is today.
Fantastic. So again, that's the thing is you got to keep the lights on, right? So you got to keep working, and fantastic for you. So I just wanted to make sure people can connect with you here, and you can reach out to Tim for professional reasons, not just the reasons we're reaching out to today, but for professional consultation and speaking and these kinds of things as well. So cheers to that as well. Let's start with the website and so on. Let's talk about your story. My gosh, it's a journey to say the very least, but this is one giant ask. So we're going to have to back it up a little bit for people to understand where we are, because it's so important for people to understand the window that we're talking about. So let's start where, again, bring us back. I want to give the platform to you. I want you to tell this story. It starts with, with cancer, obviously, and then it's gone from there. So,
well, I mean, just like the rest of the world, my wife and I were dealing with COVID and, staying quarantined in our house. And then we live in Florida. So obviously, for those that don't know, our state opened up a lot quicker than others. But we were still very cautious and, went out enjoyed like an Airbnb where we didn't have to meet the host and had our own pool, brought our own food and everything. We did things like that. We had date nights at home. We had, hired musicians to play on Zoom for us from our local restaurants. We were trying to support our local restaurants and our local artists. And everything was going, pretty well. Most people, you heard all these stories about couples like getting in fights and domestic violence and everything because they were forced to be in the same house together all the time. And we were fortunate enough where it actually brought us closer together. Oh. And then in the US, we celebrate Thanksgiving the end of November. And usually it's the end of November. I should qualify that. And right on Thanksgiving, I started experiencing this pain in my right side. And I told my wife about it. And she goes, you should go to the urgent care. And I said, I'm not going to the urgent care. I'll go on Monday. Right. Second day got worse. Third day got worse. I kept saying, I'm going to go on Monday. I'm going to go on Monday. Sunday, I woke up. She goes, how do you feel? And I said, I'm going to urgent care. And she goes, I thought you were waiting till tomorrow. And I said, no, it's gotten worse. I need to go. And so I went into urgent care. It's just in our neighborhood. I could walk to it. And it was a Sunday.
Can you hold that thought for 2 seconds? I'm sorry. I want you said something here that is so important because I lived it myself recently. Gentlemen, all the males out there, females are so in tune with their bodies. They get it and they're willing to do something about it, which is the right thing to do. But you just said you hesitated, didn't you? You hesitated on the pain. You said, I don't want to go to I don't want to disrupt the system. There's lots of things going on. People are in there with COVID. I don't want to tie up the system. Right. And as God,
it's also in my head, it could have gone away. Right. I mean,
well, I just want to emphasize that because I lived that as well. So I know a lot of males will feel incredibly, very significant signs of things that are happening to them in a serious manner, and they don't take action quickly. So I just wanted to emphasize that because I feel you. I feel you.
I've learned through all this is don't wait. If you feel something, take action. That's like one lesson I've learned from all this. But anyway, I went in
Sunday. So Sunday, you go to the urgent care. Yes,
I go to the urgent care. They, check me in. They look at me. Nothing overly pressing or concerning. But they ordered a CT scan for me, thinking it possibly could have been a kidney stone. So I went home and told my wife, and I couldn't get a CT scan on a Sunday because it wasn't an emergency. It was just general. And so Monday morning, I made an appointment. I went in Monday morning. Again, I could walk to the CT scan. Went in, got the CT scan. They were very insistent when I left there. Do not call us. Your doctor will call you with the results.
Wow.
It should be within a few hours. And I said, okay. So I get home and my wife and I are kind of joking, about getting the call. And I guess if I get a phone call and they prescribe me something, it's no big deal. If they ask me to come in, it's going to be a little bit more major. And long story short is they called and says, can you come in? And I remember telling my wife as I walked back over there, I said, I guess I'm not getting a prescription. And I was laughing just like that. I said it as a joke.
Well, of course. I mean, because you at this point in time, your brain is kind of going, really? Or
you don't expect the worst. You just expect something, right? And you don't know what it is. So I walked in, and unlike the first time I went in on Sunday where they take my name, I sat down, I had to wait, and then they call me back, and then I got to wait for the doctor to come in. This time they said, oh, you're Tim. And I said, yes. And they're like, oh, come right back. So I didn't have to register or anything. They brought me right into a room, and the doctor came in right away with a single piece of paper. And he just looked at it and he said, you have cancer. And I just looked at him with a big smile on my face. And I said, okay. And he goes, do you need me to call somebody? Or are you okay? And I said, no, I'm fine. I'm like, I can't change anything. So just tell me what I need to do next. That's all I need to know. And we started going back and forth, and I'll just, I'm not going to go into all the details, but basically he knows me because I am a guy and I don't typically go to the doctor.
Yes.
And the only time I've gone is in this, it was 5 years then, was like maybe once a year. So he had known me. He was kind of my primary doctor without having a primary doctor, And so he knew that I didn't really have insurance, that at the time I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't have kind of a system to work through. And so he goes, I used to be work in the ER at a hospital. Do you mind driving to St. Pete, which is about a 40-minute drive for us? And I said, no, not at all. So he connected me with a GI doctor who could get me in that afternoon. He texted the guy and talked to him on his cell phone and got me an appointment so I could go in and see him. You know, I went in there. My wife was bawling when I came home because she was like thinking I'm going to die. And I'm like, you know, listen, I said, you know, we don't know anything yet. Let's just go in, get the GI. I don't know if they're going to do it right away, you know, the colonoscopy, or if they're going to wait. I have no idea. We go in. She couldn't come into the room because it was still COVID. So I got because of COVID, you needed to get screened for COVID before they admitted you for a procedure. So I needed to, in 3 days, on the Thursday, I was going to get the colonoscopy. So I get home, you know, I get my my COVID test. I go back in, I get the colonoscopy. And I was wondering why all the doctors and nurses were like so nice and holding my hand and saying, you know, bless you. And you're so strong and, you know, you're going to make it through. And I'm like, and something is just like not right here. And after the colonoscopy, they came back and told me that, you know, which I basically knew, that I had stage 4 cancer that had metastasized to my liver. And, again, not making a long story short here, I just went to the oncologist that after I got referred to from the same doctor. And I finally got in after like a week and a half after my colonoscopy. And he said, you know, he was really good. My wife could come in with me there and just answered all of our questions. The one piece of advice he gave me, which I'll never forget, and I'm always grateful. I actually just called him a month ago and I left a message thanking him for this, is that he told me that wherever you are in your process, including talking to me right now, I always suggest you go get a second, third, and fourth opinion. If you don't believe what's happening in your gut to be true, then go talk to somebody else until you find somebody that either acknowledges what you're feeling, or you exhaust all your resources and you're finally convinced that what you're feeling and what you're thinking isn't the right thing. And so I never forgot that. But he got me my first, you know, scan. He got my port installed, which is where they put your chemo into. He got my first chemo infusion started. And then he asked me, he said, why are you coming all the way down to St. Pete for your infusions? You're going to get these every 2 weeks. Wouldn't you like to go somewhere closer to home? And so he referred me to another oncologist that was only 10 minutes away from my house. And I'll never forget, my wife could not come in, and I'm glad she couldn't come into this one. That oncologist looked at me and said, I have no idea why this doctor had you on this chemo cocktail, because it can give you some permanent side effects. We're going to switch you over to this one because you have 3 years left to live, and I want your quality of life to be the highest it can be.
Wow. Okay. Right there. Did you hear that ever before said to you? That part?
I did not even hear that. That was the first time I ever heard that.
See, right there. Wow. Boom. Like that moment. Yeah. That moment. Now, I don't want to listen, I know you're trying to gloss over everything, and I want to help educate people as well. Yeah. I think you talked about the first chemo, and I'm going to put it up here. Is this the right chemo that you said you were on first that didn't work for you? Got it. I just want
it worked, but the second oncologist said that one, because the Fox part of that, and I don't know all the technical names of all these chemos, but that's like the generic name for it, is the Fox of that can cause neuropathy in your toes and your fingertips.
Right. So
and neuropathy is like a numbing sensation. So like when I was on that, I couldn't drink cold beverages because it would be like a tingling in my mouth, like unbelievably, like you stuck your tongue to a metal pole in the middle of winter, that kind of, but you didn't feel like it was stuck. It was just like that kind of sensation. And so, that's why she said that she didn't want me on that, was because that chemotherapy.
That one caused the what you referred to there. Yeah, it's the damaging of nerves, right? And you said right, it's neuropathy kind of thing, it's that tingling that your sensation you were talking about. But so they moved you to another one, and again, I wanted to learn this stuff. I really did, because I just think it's important for everybody to not be scared of big, the terms and the words and all that stuff, but just think. And so they moved you to. Is this the right one that you removed? Okay,
Yep.
got it.
So
Got it.
this is the one who told me I had 3 years. She put me on 𝗪𝗺. Now, after I saw this one, I called my first oncologist and I said, okay, I just have a couple questions. I said, first of all, she told me that she put me on this different chemo because what you put me on wasn't good. And he goes, well, let me explain that for oncologists, there's 2 types of main chemo treatments for your type of cancer. I put you on one, she put you on the other. Half the people, oncologists in studies, have used both of them. They both have about the same efficiency rates. And so, it's kind of a either or, you can go with either or. And I said, okay, I get that. I said, now she told me I had 3 years to live. And he goes, Tim, I did that early in my career. I don't believe in that now because I've told people 6 months and they've lived for 6 years. I've told people 6 years and they live for 6 months. Right. I do not want to be the doctor who tells you how long you have to live. Now, statistically speaking, somebody, not you, but overall, for all ages, all health conditions, somebody with your conditions, type or stage 4, colon cancer, which means it's metastasized. Stage 4 means it goes from the primary spot to another organ in your body. Right. And mine went to my liver. So for anybody in my condition, whether you're 6 or 66, right? Whether you have other health issues or you're perfectly healthy, the average life is 3 to 5 years for that condition. He said, now you are on the younger side of that. You're overall healthy. Would I expect you to be on the lower side? No. Would I think it's realistic for you to live for 10 years? No. But where in that, I don't know. I can't tell you. If I were to guess, I would say you're going to live at least 5, probably a little bit longer. But I don't think it's realistic for you to expect that you're going to live for 10 years. And so I thanked him and I said, I'm working on getting into another cancer center here instead of just working with an oncologist. And I did 2 rounds of that 𝗪𝗺. And then I went to Moffitt Cancer Center here in Tampa. They're, I think, the state's only accredited NCI, which is the National Cancer Institute here in the U.S. Center in Florida. So they're very well respected. They're research focused. So the one thing that they have that I wouldn't have been able to get from either of those 2 oncologists is clinical trials. And some other opportunities that they have access to that a normal healthcare provider wouldn't have. And so I got into Moffitt, and they, when I went in for my initial consultation, I told him what I had been on, what I switched to. And he just looked at me and my wife and said, if you're up for it, with your age being younger and your overall health being good, I would love to put you on a combination of both of those, which is FOLFOXIRI. Yeah. And that is much more aggressive. It has a higher success rate. And this is another thing I want anybody to understand that, and you do if you've been involved in cancer treatment, is success to oncologists means that you don't have any spreading and you don't have any growth. So it can remain exactly where you are, and that is success.
So it's not cured. That's
cured.
That's the big word everyone's looking for.
Very, very different things.
Different thing.
So I understood that at this point now. And so, but this FOLFOXIRI came with, instead of my success rate being like 30%, it raised it up to like 40 to 70%. And so I went on that, and he told me, he goes, it's much more aggressive, but your side effects are much more aggressive. And I just looked at my wife, and we just shook each other's, heads in unison and said, let's do it. And so I was on that for 6 months, and it showed great results. I'm just going to backtrack here a little bit and go off course, but sure. One of the things that happens is when you're getting treated for cancer, you get actively treated, you get scans like every 2 months, like CT scan, MRI, depending on what type of cancer you have.
Sure.
And there's this thing.
There's a PET scan as well. PET?
PET is, it's one that's not great at measuring like the growth of your cancer, but it's good at like showing you where the active cancer cells are.
Right. I was found that fascinating as well. It was this idea of where basically it has almost like a nuclear part of this whole
Yes.
thing.
Well, you got to drink this stuff, and then they inject you with stuff for like an hour, and then you get in this tube. It's just like a CT machine, you know, the big round
Sure.
tube that your body goes through, but
Sure.
you actually do it for like 30 to 40 minutes instead of like 10 to 15 minutes like a CT scan. So
So you had to go through this process as well. I mean, you went through
yeah, oh yeah, I went through that early on, and I did another one not too long ago. But you know, my CT scans are every 2 months, and even the PET scans, right, that are once a year. What people get is what we call scanxiety, because when you get the scan, there's a time delay. It could be an hour if you're seeing your oncologist right after your scan, or like in this case, I had a scan this morning and I'm not seeing my oncologist until next Monday. So I can probably see it in 2 days on my patient portal, on my app, on my phone. But in order to actually get the actual news from him and what it means, I won't know for a week. So I have this whole week of like the time leading up to the scan being worried, and then the time to actually hear the results from my doctor being worried. I've never been worried about a scan to the extent that it's obsessed me, because after my first chemo treatment, when I got my colonoscopy, they put in a stent because the mass of my tumor was so large in my colon that they put in a stent to keep it open so I could keep naturally passing, you know,
sure, of course.
my bowel movements. And
Sure.
after my first chemo treatment, I was in the bathroom for like 45 minutes. I remember my wife coming in and checking on me. Was everything okay? And I'm just sitting there, and I'm going to try and make this as PG as I can without getting too gross. But
Okay.
I was sitting on the toilet, and you know that feeling when you're going and you feel like something's coming out and it's just not coming out? I just felt like that was it. And I finally, after 45 minutes, I'm like, I just can't, there's something there. I'm just going to have to take the toilet paper and pull it out. And when I pulled it out, it was the last thing that I expected. It was my stent that I pulled out.
Oh no. Okay. Wow.
So I called the other oncologist, and he was like, it's perfectly fine. He had warned me about it. He goes, you might pass it naturally, or they might take it out, you know, in the future. But he goes, passing it naturally is not going to be pleasant. And it wasn't. But I took that as a sign of, if I have this mass that's closing up my colon,
yes,
if it opened up enough for that to be able to pass through, that's a good sign that the tumor is shrinking.
I see where you're going with that. Yeah, so it was a good sign. And so
I took that as a good sign.
Okay.
He said that it was a good sign. So when I got my first scan 2 months later, I was not surprised by the results that they were positive. What I was really surprised about was some of my tumors had actually shrunk about 50%.
Wow. Okay.
And that was just after 2 months of treatment. And everything has continued that direction. But after 6 months, I started getting neuropathy in my toes, where I started getting some numbness in my toes.
Right.
I told my doctor. He took me right off of that and put me back on FOLFIRI after being on FOLFOXIRI.
Yeah.
And that was about the same time that I was asking him for what are my options other than being on chemo for the rest of my life.
Right.
And he was saying, well, I'm not a candidate for surgery, but you know, I could get involved in clinical trials. Now, I had some other issues like with, you know, low platelet counts and low white blood cell counts, and all that had to be like worked on before I would be eligible for a clinical trial. But he was basically telling that was my only option. So I joined this Facebook group called Colon Town. And it's basically a huge community for people that are impacted with colon cancer or colorectal cancer, really.
Right.
So anybody that's a patient, survivor, caregiver, you know, family member, whatever, you can join this group. And what they do is they have all these subgroups that are based upon like either your interest, where you live, what kind of treatment you're getting. So they have a group for clinical trials. They have one for, you know, Mets to the liver. They have, you know, Mets is metastasis to the liver. They have, you know, one even for specifically for people that are interested in and pursuing or have gotten liver transplants. Okay. And so I had found out about liver transplants as an option because of this group. And what I did was I reached out to the doctor who is highly talked about as one of the top leading, you know, liver transplant surgeons for metastasized cancer. And I made an appointment with him. And I got on the call, and so this is about 8 months into my treatment, and he goes, well, everything is looking good for you to potentially be a candidate, but you need to undergo chemo with good side, good reaction to it for a year. We need to make sure that there's no other cancer outside of your liver before we say that you're eligible. And so I'm going to kind of
you can't have any signs of cancer in your body that's outside of the liver at this point. So the cancer has metastasized. Is that how I say it?
Yep.
It's metastasized to the liver.
Yep.
And so now everything outside of the liver needs to be sort of neutral, if you will, needs to be neutral. And you don't have any of those signs, so no evidence of it, so that when that window shows up, we quote unquote, the expert can go in and do a liver transplant, which means that theoretically the rest of your body would be cancer free technically at that point, and then the liver would be new, and that of course would regenerate and then become cancer free as well. Is that generally
that's a general concept?
I want to give a shout out to the great doctor, by the way. Is that Roberto we're talking about? Dr. Roberto
Hernandez, yes.
Hernandez.
He and his team are absolutely amazing. I mean, amazing.
Are they really? Because I'm thinking, hey, let me tell you a little secret. I'll go share something with you, Tim. I was reading that and I was like, I got to reach out. I got to learn more about him. So I know in your email, you sent me an email just with some generic information that I asked you for, just so I can kind of get my head around this thing. And he was listed. So I looked it up. I found his office, and guess what I did this morning? I reached out. I called him. I did. I just called his office. So a lovely lady by the name of Crystal answered the phone, and she had a great chuckle because I said, I'm from Canada. I said, this is the craziest call you're going to get. But long story short is I wanted to reach out and understand, because there's a Canadian connection there, by the way. He is a world renowned, of course, for what he does, but he did a lot of his training and so on in Western University in London, Ontario, which I'm very familiar with London. I go to London, Ontario often. And he also done a fellowship here in Alberta, Canada, with Alberta Health Services. So I was like, I got to reach out to this guy. This guy's a rock star. So anyway, I wanted to give a shout out to the doctor that again, that is helping you right now with this process and so on. And fortunately, he's out saving lives today, so he couldn't join us. I know. Crystal, I was like, Crystal, is he like busy? She started laughing. She says, yeah, he's kind of saving lives right now.
You would be amazed at like how many conversations I've had with him and his team since June or July of last year, and how responsive they are. And they've only, I think last year did somewhere around like 10 liver transplants for cancer patients. All of last year. This has only been done for, I think, the last 4 years in the US. Okay. And so it's a fairly new thing. Now I say that, and it might sound like a small number, but that is like, they are the second most behind Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, Ohio, for liver transplants for metastasized cancer patients.
Wow.
So he has done probably more or as much as just about anybody else.
There you go. I want to put a shout out. There's his website right there, everybody. And that's basically how I tracked him down and so on. I just wanted to give a shout out. We're talking about, these are the experts out there in the world that are really making a big difference in people's lives. And so down the bottom there, I just wanted to show you that the credentials and so on. Again, Western in London, Ontario, which is fantastic. And then of course it says fellowship in transplant surgery in Alberta Health Services, which is right here in my backyard. So anyway, I just wanted to give him a shout out, and all the people, all medical specialists who are out there doing these amazing things in the world. So shout out to him. I just want to share that with everybody because again, these are the people that you need. And when you're making that phone call, here's a person that's telling you there's an option for you.
Yeah. So I just went through all these calls. I needed to, I'm going to kind of run through these things really quick because, in order to make sure there's no cancer outside of my liver, their tumor board, Dr. Hernandez's tumor board that he presents my case to, has to look at everything. And so they look at my scans, and like I had a lymph node up in my collarbone that was enlarged one time. And so they wanted to see that, even though it had shrunk the next time, because lymph nodes, if you have cancer cells in your lymph nodes, it can just spread throughout your body and it's like game over, you know? So they needed to do they wanted to have a biopsy done on that. So they're coordinating with my team down here at Moffitt the whole time.
Right.
They did a biopsy on that. I needed to have another PET scan done to make sure that there was no cancer outside, because one of my initial PET scans when I was first diagnosed showed a small little area on the outside of my abdomen that lit up. And PET scans, if it lights up, that means it's active cancer.
Right.
And so we did another PET scan that was not seen on there. It's not been seen on any CT scans that I've had. So they didn't think anything too much of it. I needed to have another colonoscopy to tattoo where my primary tumor was,
right,
in order to get a colon resection, which a colon resection is a surgery where they go in and remove the part of your colon that has the cancer in it. Now,
yeah, right. I read about, when I say yes, it's just, I was reading about this. So it's all starting to make sense about everything you're talking about, but you had a part of your colon removed, correct?
So I had my sigmoid colon removed, which is about 7 inches. And the surgeon down here at Moffitt explained the whole thing. It's about 7 inches. They take the whole assembly out. It's kind of like if you have a carburetor in your car with all these little, you know, plugs coming in and out. They just remove that whole assembly and put it and just reattach the other ones like it's plumbing. And so he goes, it's a great place to be because it's not too close to your rectum, and it's, you know, it's not too close to other organs. It's a pretty common procedure that we can just go in and remove that. So when they did the colonoscopy to tattoo it, there was only scar tissue remaining. When they did the colon resection and removed it and did a biopsy on it, there was no signs of active cancer in the biopsy. So the chemotherapy had done well enough on my liver to, shrink all my tumors to a very small place, but they were still all over my liver. And it completely removed the tumor that was in my colon.
Wow. Okay. So that's all good stuff, right?
I got all the signs now. And right as I was getting my colon resection, they said, it's time for us to get you with our donor navigator to have a meeting. Because if we do that now and you're getting your colon resection, the one thing that we would plan on is you getting this done like the end of August, beginning of September with normal timeframes. But the reason why we connect you with the donor navigator is it's up to each patient to be able to find their donor.
I got to tell you, yeah, I had this conversation with Crystal on the phone where I was asking her all kinds of interesting questions, but I'm flabbergasted by that. I just want to say that out loud. I don't know if anyone feels the same way, but I'm just flabbergasted that the patient is left to find something as significant as an organ. I mean, anyway, I'm just trying to get my head.
I wasn't like thrown back by it, but I was surprised by it. And the first question I get from most people is, aren't you on a list?
Right. That was my thinking.
For cadaver livers, there is a list, right? And you can get on that list, and it's a national list here in the US. And those are people who are deceased, who have donated organs, and you can get on a list to get one of those organs. The problem is that the score that you need to have to get on that ranges from, I don't know what the range is, but basically you need to be a minimum of a 30 to be able to be eligible to get one of those. Somebody like me with cancer, probably until I'm right on my deathbed, would be 7.
Oh.
So I'm nowhere close to getting on a list for a cadaver liver.
Right.
So the whole thing is, and most people don't realize this, is you can actually become a living donor. And a living donor is somebody who's alive that can donate either an organ or part of an organ to another person that's still alive. And most people are aware that you have 2 kidneys and you could donate a kidney if you have 2 healthy ones. But most people are not aware that the liver is the only organ in your body that will regenerate itself. So you can donate 50, 60, 75% of your liver to a recipient, and your liver will regenerate to full size within 12 weeks.
That is, The body is unbelievable. If anyone is not in awe of just what you just said, it's funny. I was talking to Crystal about that this morning, and she was giving me a few stats like that. So this is great news, everybody. This is the point of telling this part of the story, is that when you're asking somebody right now, you're asking for someone, basically for something very, very significant, obviously. However, it's a temporary measure in that sense, right? It will rejuvenate itself.
It will. You'll be back. I just heard people like over the weekend comment that have either had family members that donated or they were the recipient and know the donor and said, hey, theirs was back to, full size within 8 weeks or 6 weeks, and they were back at work within 2 weeks. I mean, it's amazing how quickly as a donor, I mean, I'm not minimizing the ask that this is, but I'm just saying that this is not something that you need to put yourself out for 6 months of your life to be able to do. It's a few weeks out of your life. It's several tests. It's a major surgery, all these things, but it's a major surgery that's not that uncommon, so there's very little side effects from it. There's obviously any surgery has potential, for downside. So I know this is not an easy ask that just anybody that off the street is going to come in and do. But I think if you're considering donating an organ as a on your license, at least here in the States, that's how we do it. You can put that you donate your body to science, and that can mean that they use it in another person or to study. But the whole thing is that I don't think enough people realize what they are capable of being able to give while they're still alive.
That's a powerful message, everybody. I hope I'm hearing it myself for the first time, is that we don't understand the power that we can do while we're still here, while we're still conscious of being able to research and understand these things and figure out a way that we can actually participate in a safe way. Again, I don't want to belittle exactly the ask either. I think it's a very, very significant ask. However, the side effects of what we're asking about here is the positive side of that is really the fact that again, you're doing it in a time when you're still healthy. I mean, obviously the person that would be involved with this would be healthy. By the way, on the bottom there, everybody, I have details about the ideal candidate. Okay, so that was the whole point of having that down there and so on. I'm going to show you your website as well, Tim. 𝗵𝗁𝗁.com, which I think is just awesome. I love that. I love that. But I think that's
the recovering marketer in me. Make the website memorable.
Yeah, make the website. Yeah, well, hey, it's Tim's Liver. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I do want to show a quick little video because, again, I think it's important to put a lot of the things you said into context. It's very short. Again, educational purposes, everybody. I want people to kind of walk away with something of understanding about what we were talking about with colorectal cancer, these kinds of things, and just some of the the biology of what we were talking about and so on, some of the things. So it's a quick little clip. I just want to show it. It's just for educational purposes, everybody. It's only about 90 seconds long. It doesn't go into big graphic anything, but it does describe one of the things that I think is important. It talks about the different stages and the fact that you talked about yours has moved. Again, once it goes to a certain stage, it does move to other organs in the body. And in your case, it moved to the liver. And that's what we're talking about here today. So I just wanted to show it. I just think it's very helpful for people to put it all into context. Let me just show this little clip here, Tim. I'll be right back with you, everybody. Just hang in there and have a look at this.
Colorectal carcinoma, also known as colon cancer, is when malignant or cancerous cells arise in the large intestines, which includes the colon and rectum. It's the most common type of cancer of the gastrointestinal tract, and a major cause of death and disease around the world. When tumors become cancerous, they can be categorized into stages. Stage 0 is carcinoma in situ, meaning that the tumor has not grown beyond the mucosa. Stage 1 is when the tumor has grown beyond the mucosa, but has not spread to lymph nodes or distant organs. Stage 2 is when the tumor has invaded the whole colonic or rectal wall, and may have reached nearby organs or tissues, but still has not spread to lymph nodes or distant organs. Stage 3 is when the tumor has spread to lymph nodes, but still hasn't spread to distant organs. Finally, stage 4 is metastatic, meaning that the tumor has spread to distant organs. The most common site of metastasis for colon cancer is the liver, and for rectal cancer, it's the lungs. Treatment for colorectal cancer depends on the stage of the cancer. Early cancers that are confined to the wall of the colon are often surgically resected, and those that have spread to nearby lymph nodes are often treated with chemotherapy. Unfortunately, metastatic cancers are typically incurable, but sometimes chemotherapy or surgery can be used to ease symptoms.
And I think that's what we're getting at right there, is that basically it's moved to the liver, and this surgery in this particular case can play a very significant role in removing. I mean, the fact is you're not showing any signs of cancer in other parts of your body right now, which is where this came from to start with. The fact that it's in your liver now is because of that cancer moving and going to stage 4 and so on. So I know there's a complexity to it, everybody, and obviously it's not something we just chat about all the time, but that's part of this conversation. That's why I wanted to have it. I wanted to share your story, Tim. I want to make sure people understand that you cannot throw a fridge, everybody. You can't throw a fridge far enough to hit somebody that could tell you stories that relates to something to do with, especially, again, cancer and these kinds of conditions in our society. And it's super disruptive to families. It's super disruptive to households and these kinds of things. There's financial considerations. There's just personal, all kinds of things that happen through this. So we're not immune to it. It's somewhere in our system. So Tim, here's what I want to talk to you about. We got into some great detail there. I want to really make sure that we're driving home the whole purpose of what we're doing here today, which is we're really making this giant ask, everybody. And the whole point of talking about the idea that the liver can regenerate and so on, we are talking about where a person in real time would actually donate part of their liver. I'm going to bring up your website while you explain some of this, Tim, but I want to ask you about that process for people, because this could be anybody in the world. And of course, it's always going to be health is number one, would be the number one consideration. But of course, there's always going to be a financial and time consideration for someone, even angels have to think that, and an angel who would, right? So can you share a little bit about that? And I'll bring up your website so people can see that there's great detail in there of the ideal candidate and some of the considerations. But talk about the financial and all those kinds of things that would help ease someone's mind if they were considering this.
Yeah, well, the other thing that I get asked outside of what list I'm on is also, why do I need to be a certain height and weight? And I just want to explain that, because your liver regenerates to its original size. So if I'm 6'1", I can't have somebody that's too much below 5'10" or too much above 6'4", because that would either be too large or too small for my body. I have O positive blood type, but any O blood type would work, and certain strains of A blood type would work. So that's for me specifically because of my build and my blood type. But the other conditions outside of being an overall good, mental and physical health are also talking about being between the ages of 18 and 60. I think 18 is the age because you're pretty much fully grown and you're also legally able to sign a contract. And 60, this is just my thought. It's not that I know this for a fact, is I think it's because your body doesn't regenerate at the same rate and the same health as it does when you're below 60. So those are the age ranges. And then I know there's a certain other, criteria, like you can't have kidney disease, you can't have heart disease, you can't have diabetes, and you can't have any previous forms of cancer. So even if you're cancer free now, even if you had cancer in the past, you wouldn't be eligible. But, the one thing that I've learned is it's just going to take that one person to come forward. And I really think, Peter, that exactly what we're doing here, and this is what I mentioned earlier on, is how I'm kind of learning this community building that I've done for years as a profession, as far as how it works here. I can reach out to all my friends and family and put the request out them, to call in. And that's the first step, is just call in. You give them you tell them my name and you tell them my date of birth, which is right on that website. And you say you're interested in being a donor. They'll ask you height, weight, blood type, all the other information. And if you pass that screening, then they'll ask you to get a blood sample and tissue sample, which is generally just a hour-long thing. They take care of the cost of it. You just get it done locally. They get the results from it. And if that's good, then they'll actually ask you to do a 2-day screening. And that screening is basically doing like, CT scans or MRI scans and, maybe some other, blood work and some psych workups and, health, screening and everything else. So you'll do that and I'll do that. Now, the hospital will pay for your screening, whether you have it done locally or come up to Rochester to be able to do it. And mine will be paid for by my insurance. Now, if you are accepted, because once they do that screening for you and for me, they will actually send both of our scans of our livers over to a company in Germany that does this 3D mapping of both of our livers. So they make sure all the veins and everything are lining up and there's no concerns there. Once that's finalized, I need to be off of chemotherapy for a month. And obviously, as a donor, it's up to your schedule. But then we would schedule the surgery and we would both fly to Rochester. You would have to plan on being in Rochester for at least 2 weeks, for the procedure and to be around for them to do a follow-up visit before you're, given the all clear to be able to travel back home. And I will probably be up there for a month to 2 months, probably a little bit longer than you in the hospital. And definitely longer because there's a lot more complications that go wrong with me with anti-rejection medicines and bile ducts and all this stuff that I need to be up there to be able to be looked at, within an hour drive of the hospital. So, and that whole procedure is taken care of by my insurance. Now, I say that at least for people that are from the States. I think it's from people from Canada. I can't speak specifically to anybody else from anywhere else. And I'm only saying from Canada because I know people from the US that have had donors from Canada that have done it. But I would imagine that my insurance doesn't care where you're from. It's going to cover the procedure because they look at the transplant. The recipient is part of the transplant procedure. So that's covered by my insurance. Now, what's not covered is your travel cost to come back and forth to Rochester and the time that you'd miss off of work, which would probably be a couple weeks. If you're blue collar and you have to lift heavy objects, that might be a little bit longer time off of work because there are, lift restrictions put on you once you have a surgery done. So there's definitely that. And where this all comes in with my community building thing is I can ask anybody in my network, to consider being a donor or to share this if they don't meet the criteria. But the one thing that I've learned is, and this comes true from building communities too, right? You just can't keep going to the same pond every time and hoping to catch a fish. If you fish them all out, you need to go to a different section of the pond to fish that area before you can find a new one. And so, like Stefan connecting me with you, Peter, is just one example of this, right? It's like, he's not able to be a donor. You might not be able to be a donor, but just the pure act of saying, hey, here's somebody else who has a different audience, who has different contacts than you that can get your story out. That's what it's all about to me. And that's what I'm starting to see is like all these connections now. It's not about asking the same thing over and over to the same people. It's about putting the ask out to a different group of people and seeing who's out there. And I don't want anybody to minimize if you can't call because you don't think you're the right donor because you don't meet the criteria. You can always share this with your network. You can share my site. You can spread the word. You can ask another person who does a LinkedIn show. You can ask another podcaster. You can ask a journalist to, that writes in a magazine to be able to, follow up. And it's all these things that help get the word out to more and more people because it only takes one, but it takes a community to find that one.
Yeah, see, that's gosh, thank you for sharing all that, Tim. I hope everyone heard exactly that message and rewind this and listen to it again. You're absolutely right. I mean, the purpose of the community, I ask that of myself all the time, Tim, and I'm taking it in another direction very quickly. But this idea of like even being on LinkedIn or being part of communities and so on, especially on social media platforms and so on. What is the purpose if we can't do this? I mean, that is for me. That's my heart speaking. That's my soul speaking right this second. I don't understand my purpose of being here if all I'm going to be doing is talking about what I do and maybe my business. There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, everybody, don't send me any emails about that. Yes, talk about your business and do all that. I appreciate that. But if we can't feel the comfort level to reach out and have these giant asks. I asked the simple question, Tim, you might have seen it in some of the promo that I've been doing for us to get together here, is that, what if that were me? How would I want people to respond if I had to come out and have this ask? And to your point, you would ask your closest friends, you would ask your circle of influence, you would do all that. And then eventually, as you said, there's a punch drunkenness to it. I mean, after a while, people are like, well, I don't know anybody, and you're like, well, I need to expand the message. How do I do that? It's through these conversations and so on. And I agree with you. This is the whole point of being able to connect with somebody that sees that and is able to do that. Speaking of that beautiful soul, Stefan, I never, again, I think I've met him like once or twice on some sort of passing shows or something like this. It's the same old story, is that you run into people all the time, but I know he's also a content creator, and he's out there doing all kinds of different things. And he's the one that brought us together. And only makes sense to me that we bring in the beautiful soul, Stefan Kaplan. How are you, my friend?
Thank you, Peter. Hi. Hey, Tim. How are you, bud?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Man. Okay, Peter. I'm gonna have to where, as Tim says, where's the puffs? I love Tim. He's a great soul. He's a great guy. And just, we've met God, it's been a decade, almost, at least, if not maybe 11, 12 years now. And, I'm just glad I can help, because I really do believe what you do. And that's if I'm online, if I'm in social media as a content creator, I've gotten to listen, we've been through a hell of a lot the past 3 years with this pandemic, us in the States here with all the other craziness with the politics and everything else, not getting into all that. But the point is that if this hasn't jarred us, if this hasn't shaken us to our core about life and humanity and what we can do to help other people, then what the hell is going to do it? I mean, is it going to take like a magnitude, whatever, on a Richter scale of an earthquake that we're going to end up in one of these science fiction movies? I mean, what is it going to take?
Now, I want to ask both you, Stefan, and Peter a question, even though I might be the guest here.
I was going to say, you be careful now, because I get people trying to turn the show on me a lot, and then it doesn't work. Just so you know,
I'm asking for a very
friend. You're asking for a friend.
I want you both to describe what having me on this show has meant to both of you, the feeling that you got inside.
Just of pure joy to be able to help someone. That's it. It's the basic core of humanity. And just same thing goes with why I have such a hard time relating to people who, with issues of racism and other things and stuff like that. I just don't understand where this inability to try to solve problems and try to help other people stems from sometimes. But with this, it's so basic. When I posted the other day, I've always thinking of different ways to tell a story, always different ways to do that big ask, right, Peter?
Yes.
And because, like you said, it's like anything else. People don't want to hear the same thing all the time, no matter how serious the issue is, no matter how anything is. So you have to find ways that make people listen. And what I wrote was that, why are we in social media? What isn't this what we're good at? Isn't this what we do for a living? Is tell stories? At least I do. I'm not a pure marketer. I'm a seasoned journalist, storyteller, photo editor, all that stuff all put into one. And now a live stream person too. But isn't that what we do? So if I can't help somebody like Tim, who's a dear friend of mine, whether it's raise money in the beginning, when he first announced this, one of the things that I did, he has one of my photos there hanging on his wall. But the point with this is that I've been struggling economically in a few ways here and there. We all have. This pandemic has been a brutal on businesses and people. But whether or not I can afford another freaking latte, or I can create, I need another whatever, I can do without that. So I took a whole bunch of my photos, about maybe 50 to 75 photos that I curated, some of my best stuff, go on Facebook, see what people like the most. That's what appeals to people. That's fine. It's not what I like, it's what other people like. So I put that together. I constantly put it online for about 3 or 4 months, raised whatever it was, sent every penny to Tim when he didn't have the insurance he needed, because I can do without certain things, man. I'm fine. But Tim needed this. So, you know, and listen, we can't save the world. But the one thing Tim has taught me more than anything is that we don't have to save the world. We can try to help one person. If we can help one person at a time, that is such a huge thing.
Now what feeling do you get, Peter, from doing this?
Hey, listen, this is easy for me. I mean, when I say easy, it's hard. It's easy to express. It's hard to find the words. So I can only say it through my voice, and being able to kind of express it that way. You know, I feel purposeful, and I feel and again, I this is going to sound. I want people to hear what I'm meaning when I say this. The most selfish thing I can do is to be selfless. If I can give away whatever gift I've been given, I don't know what the gift is. I really don't know, but I've been given hints by people, and people have told me physically and in writing and so on what my gift is. So who is it? I need to give. That is the point of it. There is no purpose for my gift. It reminds me of my guitar playing as an example. This is not as a sexy example of it, but when I play music, I can play music for myself all day long. And I do sometimes. Sometimes I sit here and I just want to entertain myself. But I never go out and play publicly for me. There's no, I don't do that for me.
Exactly.
Because I want that connection. I want to be able to say, I want to put a song out here through me, and then another person's listening, and we come together in this little space, and then we look at each other and go, hey, that was kind of cool. We were connected. Just what we're doing right here in this conversation.
But you know,
what's so fantastic about this whole point, Tim, as well, and same with Stefan, is that I don't even know you, my friend. I don't even know you, and I still feel like it was.
Can I just finish up really quick, Stefan, my point, because I think it's so important that if you're listening right now, that you just heard what Stefan and Peter said. Now, Stefan made a connection. Peter invited me on his show and did this. Imagine the feeling you would have if you donated part of your liver to me and helped save my life.
Yeah.
Well said, my friend.
Yeah,
well,
exactly. You know, and that's the thing, is that, you know, there are a lot of factors out there that could exclude certain people, including myself, my height, other things and stuff. But the point is that we can sit back and on social media, especially, I keep harping on this about social media, because social media can be a wonderful field, and it can also have its real problems. But this is the thing. I choose to use a friend of ours in common. Tim and I have a friend in common named David Beard. David Beard is one of the most seasoned veteran journalists out there. He's the executive editor of Nat Geo newsletters now, other things. But my point with this is that David always talked about same thing with curating your own social media feeds. People always complaining, oh, I see nothing but on social media. It's just horrible. Why am I on it? Well, you can fix all that if you're following the right people within reason, if you're doing all these things to sort of curate your social media feeds. Well, the same thing goes for helping people. If you're only using social media for business, that's fine. You're a pure businessman. I got no problem with it. Like you said, sell your stuff, do whatever. I'm sure you help people in other ways. But to me, I'd be soulless if I wasn't on social media to live with what I learned about a long time ago, which is living with passion and purpose. And my purpose as a human being from a while ago, when it just became a part of my life more than ever, you know, we all mature at different points in our lives in different ways. And I was never very materialistic, but I am a much simpler person than I've ever needed. I don't need much these days. The thing I need to do more than anything is help people.
That is fantastic. Well, hold some of these thoughts here, gentlemen. Listen, thank you, Tim, thanks for producing some of the show there. I appreciate that. It is a powerful concept of what we're talking about here, is the ability to use our communities and connect. And Stefan, you nailed it when it comes to this sense of why are we doing what we do? And I know for me, it resonates with me tremendously, because I don't normally share these kinds of things in some of the other contexts of the kinds of conversations that I have. But there is a level of frustration that rolls through this body right here when I see that people who have a lot of currency, a lot of social currency, might not be using it the way I would. And so I'm not judging. I'm just saying, just be conscious of that, everybody. Just be conscious of what your words, how powerful your words are. Be conscious of your network. Be conscious of the fact that you have a social currency that you might be able to spend in a really positive way. And
I think that's a really powerful thing, what you just said. You say so many powerful things, Peter. I think you're amazing, and the way you convey information. And I really love listening to you, because you hear the empathy in your voice, you hear the compassion in your voice, and you hear the sincerity in your voice. It doesn't take somebody with major social media bullshit radar to know that you walk the walk, and you talk the talk, and you walk the walk. But the point is, what I wanted to make was that none of us can sit here or be anywhere and judge anybody who can't help Tim. But Jesus, excuse me for taking the Lord's name in vain, but good heavens, if you can just hit the damn share button and possibly awake somebody or connect with somebody in a way that could save someone's life. When I ask for shares, I tell people now, if you want to share anything on my timeline today, share this, because it could help my friend Tim. Ignore all my other stuff. I'll get it out there in other ways. It's not a big deal, but it's really not that hard to hit the damn share button. It amazes me sometimes, but I'm not judging. I'm not judging.
You hit it on the head, Stefan. A really important point, everybody. Listen, this is the point of the show. We want to keep it there's a lot of information we share. And it's not normal. And let's face it, day in, day out, you don't have someone talking to you about life and death when it's them involved. We can watch it on the news all day, but when it's right on your doorstep, right in front of you, that's when those kind of things matter. And Tim, back to maybe answering some of your question, which maybe somebody might hear in what I'm about to say. I have had to come to terms in the last 10 years, and I say this in a kind way, in a tongue-in-cheek way, that I'm an empath, and I have to accept the fact that I don't sleep at night. And there's reasons why I don't sleep, because I worry about things that I should have no business worrying about, but they're on my mind. And the point of why I say that is because for me, and I'll speak in the the only thing I can kind of convey is that the situation that you're in is as if you were my neighbor, as if you were next door to me. I don't see the difference, and this in my brain, and I don't recommend it to anybody, by the way. It's a hard thing to carry around, but all I'm suggesting to anyone, if you have those kinds of feelings in your body, we need more of that. We need you to feel like Tim is your neighbor, that Stefan is your neighbor, and they live right next door. And when something's happening to you, it's happening as much to me as it's happening to you, whether it's on the other side of the globe right now, we're watching in different parts of Europe, or whether it's right here in this conversation. So the message of me saying that is that sometimes there's other parts of our brain that will say, well, I can't help everybody. And that's okay. If your brain says that, just say, thanks for sharing that with me. But you might be able to share this, and somebody down the road can help. So to Stefan's point, all we're doing here is encouraging you to say, hey, there's somebody here that's needing something. If we can use our voices to amplify that, pick and choose which ones you want to amplify. If this one resonates with you, then do so. And there's no judgment on any of those kinds of things.
No, not at all. And the one thing that people have to realize too is that I know what goes through some people's heads, because listen, it goes through a lot of people's heads, including mine once in a while, with certain things. Is it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's just probably not, poor guy, this and that, other things. No, that's just pure inaction. if you, by sharing, if we're online, think of it, the power of what we have at our hands. Think of if Tim was living back in the days before the internet was invented. Okay. What we would have to do to get this type of information across. Now, for crying out loud, we have phones, tablets, our damn refrigerators are hooked up to Wi-Fi. I mean, you can get a drink from your refrigerator and push a button and share Tim's information at the same time.
Right? Yeah, it's built into your TV. Yeah, it's built into your screen on your.
Built into your TV. Watch your favorite TV show. Just hit the darn share button.
Exactly.
I'm trying to make this comical and light because I know I can get a little over certain things, but that's rare for me. But right now it's stirring up a few emotions because I want to help Tim find this donor because we can all do it. And if we all amplify this and more that he's going to be on whenever we can, it's not going to clutter up your timelines, folks. It's not going to make your Twitter timeline look any worse. It's not going to make your LinkedIn timeline look any worse because, oh, he's sharing that again this week. Nobody's going to pay you that much attention. If you think people are paying that much attention to your timeline, whoa.
Again, there's times for all kinds of different conversations. And that's the point here, everybody, is that this is just one. If anyone who has ever followed, and I appreciate what you said earlier, Stefan, about some of the other shows that I've done. I cover lots of different subject matters because I care about a lot of things, and I'm curious with a lot of different things. And I didn't know, for example, this Tim that you talked about, this idea of, to your point, is that most people think that organ donation and the ability to help somebody is something that happens after life, and it's not necessarily true. And this, especially the liver, everybody, which is one of the most, I mean, every organ is important, obviously, but it filters out just, you know, everything in your body. And when it comes to protecting you, when it comes to toxins, all that kind of stuff. But the idea that the beautiful art and science behind the human body, and to be able to participate, the feeling that someone would be able to say, wow, I could help maybe this person, or maybe I shared it and it went to somebody that actually considered it, and so on.
Listen, Tim has also shared and saved other people's lives already. I guarantee you he has, because he's been out there since day one, where some people don't have the courage, and it's just not a part of some people, and that's understandable. Everybody is different. That's why I say never judge. And none of what I've said in any way, shape, or form is judging. I'm just saying that Tim has put his information out there, and he's told the stories where certain people, I went to go get checked earlier this year for my colon, and I also had a endoscopy done, which revealed a hiatal hernia, a minor one. And everything. But my point is that between him, a friend of mine, Amelia, who just got sick recently and passed away from a different type of cancer, he had pancreatic cancer, and that is really, really hard. But my point is that we all learn from these stories. So if we're learning from Tim and he's saving lives, let's try to help save his, you know?
Absolutely. Gentlemen, I think, again, you know, when you hear the passion in everyone's voice, that is for sure. Tim, the producer of me is coming out, just so you know. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I want to be respectful of your time. That is for sure. Tim, I want to ask you this question. I think it's really important for everyone to hear, and it's going to be reciprocal to you, Stefan, as well, is, yeah, and I'll start with Stefan, because I think it's really important that people hear a message that we all want to know. And I think there's going to be some magic in there that's one person will hear. You know, you can spend your time doing a lot of things. Stefan, you could be posting about all kinds of different things, and you could be passionate about a lot of different things, but you chose this one, and I know he's your friend. But we all have friends that need things.
Oh yeah.
But yet you've taken the next step. Why was that? It seems an obvious question, but what message do you want to share about this idea of stepping out, again, for a colleague, for a friend, for somebody? Because there is great power in that third party voice. Again, if Tim tells me what he needs, there's something different than you reaching out to me and saying, Peter, can you help my friend? Share a message about, you know, why it was so important for you to do that, and for anyone sitting on the fence for these things, to step out of their comfort zone and to be an advocate for something like this.
Just because I've just gotten to the point in my life, like I said earlier, and it really sounds like a broken record after a while, but the bottom line is it's true. I sit back every day and I reflect more about life than I've ever reflected. I think I think if more people learn to do that, listen, I can't meditate. I can't sit still and meditate. It just doesn't work for me. So what I discovered was walking about in nature and doing my photography is a walking meditation for me, I've realized. But my point is that that whole thing is carried over into my personal life in terms of teaching me about meditation and reflecting on things. And I think that my purpose now, our purpose shifts at different points in our life. We don't live with one purpose our whole life. It shifts with everything we do. And I feel my purpose now at this stage in my life, and hopefully to carry forward with anything I do from this point on, is to always somehow find the time, carve a certain amount of your time every day. We carve out time for a million things in our lives. I'd like to carve out an hour a day to try to help somebody, you know?
I love
What's an hour? What's an hour? I mean, if I lose a little income for an hour, whatever. I mean, it's, who cares?
Yeah, no, it's a powerful message. Tim, what does it mean? I mean, obviously I know you have lots of friends and family that are out there on the front lines working for you right now. And Stefan being one of them. You've added me to the list, so I mean, hopefully this show even makes one person rethink this whole concept of what we're doing, whether it's about community building, connecting with people, reaching out to strangers. I mean, strangers, again, thinking of them as your neighbor, and being able to have that empathy and compassion and say to yourself, by the grace of God, there go I, and what if it were me? So what is it? I'm just curious of your feelings about what Stefan has done and what he continues to do, and kudos to all your other family and friends as well who are out there doing it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people pulling for Tim, man.
Absolutely.
I just want to tell a little, very short story about this one time I was sitting down with this business guy, and he was on LinkedIn. He didn't care about any of the other social media platforms, but he was thinking about wanting to share stuff, and he was hesitant as to why he shouldn't, or why he should. And I just asked him one question. I said, if you can share a piece of information that takes you 15 minutes to write, and it helps one person, even if you never hear from that person, that it helped them, would it be worth it to you? And he said, yes. And I said, then what's holding you back from writing it? And I think anything we do in life, and that's been my purpose in life, I might have called it different things at time, but I think my true purpose in life is to help other people feel like they belong. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if it's in my community, if it's in their community that they're building, or just helping connect them to a community that already exists somewhere else. But if I can help that person understand that they're not alone, because I think that sense of, there's a difference between being alone and loneliness.
Yes, there is.
And too many of us associate both of them as being the same thing. But when you feel loneliness, you go into depression and you go into despair. And if I can help you not feel that loneliness and help you feel like you belong to something greater than yourself, that's my purpose in life. And so when I see Stefan doing something, it's not because he did this. It's just because of the type of person he is, because he does this. I see him doing something, and without him asking me, I want to be able to help him back. And the same will go for you, Peter, because now that I know the type of person you are, and it's not a matter of keeping a score or keeping a report card. It's just a matter of understanding that the energy that I surround myself with, the people that I surround myself, if they are positive energy and not draining of my energy, they might not be filling me up, but they're not draining me. I want to be around those people, because those are the people that I can help other people, because I'm not using all my energy for that one person. Right. And so those, you and Stefan are two of these people that I see that in, and I just want to, it's not this keeping score thing. It's not like you buy this dinner check and I'm going to pick up the next one. It's just like, hey, I'm going to see something down the road. I'm going to run into somebody and be like, oh my gosh, you need to talk here. You need to talk to Stefan, And
the other thing that drives me, Peter, is, like I said, I just lost my friend 𝗵𝗫𝗫𝗫, who was an anchor for me for the past decade of my life. The man was just unbelievable. He was like another brother to me. And I couldn't help Emilio in most ways because he didn't have anything cancer-wise that I could help him with. But this is something I can physically, and with my 2 hands on my keyboard, I can help Tim. I have the ability to help. It's not costing me anything, time, whatever, this and that. Time is, think of all the time we waste with so many things. God, I just did my old, you know, I'm dating myself here, but my grandfather used to watch this comedian that used to, was it Shecky Green or whoever? Anyway.
Yeah.
But the point is that, you know, we have time and we have the ability to do it. Just do it. You know, God, it's the oldest slogan in the book now, right? Just do it. I mean, just do it. You know, Tim shares his story. He's helping people in his own way. His attitude is so damn positive. Yeah. I can't say that I would be able to maintain the composure and the grace that Tim is showing. Same thing my friend Emilio showed. I don't know if I could show that. I don't know if my anxiety would take the better of me or not. But Tim is teaching us all so much by his daily presence on how he's conducting himself in life and what he's looking to conquer and what he is winning at right now. We just have to help him right now win some more.
I got to tell you, Stefan, it is not always easy. And I never try and make it come across like it's always easy. But, you know, if having cancer has taught me anything, and I really have never been afraid of death since I was young. But even now I'm ready. I mean, whenever my time comes, you know, but I'm not ready for it to be my time.
No.
And every time I start getting down, I start feeling a little bad. I just remember how finite our time on this earth is and how do I want to spend it?
Yeah.
And I don't have to have cancer to have that mindset. And that's why I'm sharing that, because it took having cancer for me to realize that. And you don't have to get to this point to actually embrace that and start living that way.
How deep is that, Peter? That, you know, thinking about time and, you know, our time on this earth. I mean, yeah, we've all thought about it in different ways, but how do you want to spend your time? How do you want to spend your time? How do you want to grow old instead of just getting old? You know, I say that because I'm not plugging this book. I don't do that. But I'm reading a book that a person who taught me a lot about purpose, Richard Leiter, wrote this book that I'm reading right now. Who do you want to be when you grow old? It's a great book because Richard is like, we call him the Pope of Purpose. Him and Dr. Christine Whalen are 2 people who I've learned so much about, and Emilio Pardo too, about purpose. But how do we want to live our life? You know, how do we want to spend our time? Right?
Yes, very powerful. No, listen, there's no belittling the power of suggesting how important it is to spend our time on this planet. If there's anything that I would openly say here in conversation is that I'm super, super sensitive with my time, and I always appreciate it when I'm able to share it with people, and vice versa when they share it with me. That's probably the most important one. Stefan, can you stick around a little bit behind the stage for a little bit? I'm going to, for the sake of Tim, I know we have lots to talk about, but you still got to run a business over there. I know that for sure. And same with Stefan. Stefan, stick around in the green room. We'll chat afterwards a little bit. And listen, I just wanted to send just a giant kudos to you, my friend. I mean, your character speaks for itself. I can hear it in your voice. And someone like Tim or anybody in your circle of influence, getting emotional there for a second. Anyone in your circle of influence would be so lucky to have you as a friend in their life. So good for you, my friend. Good for you.
It's just being human. That's all, man. I'm like I said, if we haven't learned from the past 3 years plus with all this chaos going on in the world and all this other stuff going on a daily basis, you know what I'm talking about here in the States, shootings, this, that, we have the ability now to do things to help other people. Right now, this world and people need help. But if we can physically help somebody survive with the push of a button, let's help. Let's help.
100%. Appreciate that. Stick around with us. I appreciate that. So appreciate him being part of this conversation here. Good friend you have there, my friend.
Yes, it is.
So just want to. I definitely want. Listen, we gotta have a little bit of. Normally, I try to take the show have a little bit of fun. Because it's not, it can't be all sad and stuff. But I was thinking, normally I do this or that. I don't know if you ever see if you don't watch my show, it's okay. But it's called This or That. And I thought, you know what, I can't. I didn't want to go down that path with you today. Maybe we'll have another conversation and we'll go down that path to find some more fun stuff. I'll throw a couple fun stuff in for you anyway. But I thought to myself, I can't have a conversation with someone, as Stefan just said. I mean, how you live right now, you're living with grace, you're living with thoughts and experiences that there's lots of people who are, but many of us aren't, and many of us can't even imagine. And even Stefan referred to it as like, I wonder if I would have the grace, would I have the ability? I ask myself that all the time. I experienced something like that in December, where I thought I was leaving, and in that very moment, it shakes you. And you mentioned a couple of phrases. You went to a doctor and he said, "Hey, you have this amount of time, and this is where you're at. So kind of get your affair." All these things, you have so much insight now and so on. So we got to go deep. I got to take you a little deep. I mean, we've been talking pretty deep anyway, but we got to have some deep. And listen, there's no long, and you don't have to. There's no book here to be written. Maybe there is, by the way. Hey, maybe there's a book. Maybe we're going to start with one. But I definitely want to go deep with you. So let's see where it is. If I have it here. Oh, we got to go deep. Okay, we're going to be going deep. Here's the big master. Okay, we're going deep with Tim McDonald. That's what we're doing. We're going deep with Tim McDonald. Let's start with this one. What life lesson did you learn the hard way? It could be anything in life, but what lesson did you learn the hard way?
I think it really sums up that some of the hardest things in life are the ones that teach us the most.
Wow. Yeah, well, I agree with that. Would you even suggest that part of this journey right now, are there lessons yet to be learned, I wonder?
Oh, I think there's lessons yet. Well, I'm a big believer that when you stop learning, you stop living. So, and I don't plan on stopping living. So,
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Yes, right. I mean, let's just keep going and learning. Let's keep going. What does your joy look like today? What does joy look like to you today?
It's right now, right here with you.
That's beautiful. That's very kind.
You can ask me that in 10 minutes, and depending on who I'm talking to, it might be that. But right now, I am here, I am with you, and that is bringing me joy.
That's a beautiful answer. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. What has life taught you recently?
Recently, it actually just happened in a conversation earlier today with a friend, that there's very, very, very few people in our lives that we get to cohabitate with. And you truly never understand a person until you cohabitate with them.
That's very true. I couldn't agree with you more on that. There's something about the guardedness, if you will, the transparency, these kinds of things that happen when you are living in the same quarters, the same context of living together in some sort of way, that where all of the masks are gone and removed, and transparency is there. And I know one of the things I love living by, and you've heard this from Maya Angelou, just watch what people do, and they'll tell you who they are. And when you live with somebody, you can watch what they do. And
24/7.
It's fascinating. We get pretty amazed and bedazzled by people who can, obviously have great be able to speak orders and be able to speak well and so on. But at the same time, I always caution, just watch what people do, what they post about, what they print, what they put in their social media, what they respond to. Just have a quick look at that. And I know that's how I live. When someone reaches out to me on LinkedIn, this is a heads up, everybody. I just go and see what you talk about. I go see what you print. I go see what you converse about. And if it resonates with me, hey man, I'm excited to meet you. If it doesn't, I send you blessings and find your way. That's just how I want to survive. So anyway, that's great. I love that. This is a question for anybody, and not necessarily just for your own situation, Tim. But what impact do you want to leave on the world? Just in general. I mean, and I'm not talking about way down the road. I'm talking about it could be any time. But what impact do you want to leave?
I think that I'm trying to find a way to verbalize it, but it really comes down to just bringing together people and help. I mean, I drew this picture and I wish I had it with me right now, but it's just crayons on white paper. And it's two stick figures, because I'm not a great artist, walking down a path, and they're holding hands, and there's only one set of footprints. And it says, I can hold your hand, but I can't take the steps for you. And if I can leave somebody with the feeling that I'm holding their hand, and then they want to in turn go hold somebody else's hand, not because our journeys are exactly the same, but because we've been through a similar path and we don't want that person to feel like they're doing it alone, that's kind of the impact I want to leave on the world, that more people will do that.
I get it. Well said. Well said. Well said, my friend. What are you most proud of your journey to date?
I think I'm most proud of the fact that I have learned to embrace my differences as a way of being, instead of a way of trying to change to conform to what others say I should be.
It takes a lot of self-awareness, does it not?
And it's a continual process.
We all, I mean, I so relate to that. I so resonate with that.
It's from learning that I didn't, want to work for a traditional company or even for anybody unless if it was the right fit for me, to understanding that, not needing to have everything saved for what might happen down the road, because I'm living today and I want to experience and enjoy today. And it's all these things that go against the grain that we've been conditioned to from our parents, from our schooling to our jobs, that told us how we should be, instead of looking inside and understanding what we really wanted.
Boy, I'll tell you, there's so much to unpack in that, but I really resonate with that. Thank you for sharing that. It's so true. I just wish, I think back of many things in all of our, we can all do it. Obviously, you just, you wish you had that person share something with you at a certain time in your life. You wish you stopped taking directions from people who have not been down the road which you're looking for. You're taking directions from people who have never been where you want to go. I totally relate to that. So that's very powerful.
Or people that try and tell you directions without asking you where you want to go.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I see you. Hey, just turn over there. Why am I turning down there? I don't know. I understand. I appreciate that. It's been a tough. Listen, I can't even formulate this question. Normally, I would say I could say to somebody, it's been a tough couple of years, and I think globally, it's fascinating. Just in this moment we're having this very second here, is that it's so overwhelming of the disconnect that some people are feeling around the world, and just even in their own homes, their own lives. And then you just turn on the news, and you just feel a little beat up. And then on top of that, and now we're talking about what your life and what you deal with and what other people in their lives are dealing with. So super sensitive to all of those things. It's sometimes hard to keep hope. Sometimes hard to keep optimistic about it. I'm wondering for you, what keeps you hopeful and optimistic these days?
Every day I wake up, I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic that what's in store for today. And it's really all I focus on. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say like I have obviously trying to plan for my liver transplant is a couple months down the road, but I don't know exactly when yet. So until that point, though, it is literally just, I mean, even just 2 weeks ago, my wife and I just, she was off of work for a couple of days. I can work from anywhere. And we just looked at the weather. It was supposed to be pretty decent. And we, within 24 hours, decided that we were going to go over to Daytona Beach because we never had been there, and made a trip over there and stayed for 3 nights. And it's just like, and we were going to stop on the way back if the weather was good in like Orlando or another little town, and it wasn't great weather. So we just came all the way back and enjoyed a night at home. And it's doing that. I mean, that's what really keeps me hopeful and optimistic, is just every day I get to get up and experience what's in store for me. I mean, because I know there's going to be one day where I don't get to do that. And so until then, I'm just going to keep it going.
Beautifully said, my friend. Beautifully said. And yeah, beautifully said. And I'm really glad that you get a chance to do that with your beautiful wife, and yeah, just stay in the moment, staying very present. I can imagine, I have imagined, because I've sort of, again, I don't want to always, people compare their pains with each other, and sometimes, and I'm just referencing, it's very fresh still in my mind of some things that I've dealt with in this year in December and so on. And I totally relate to what you're getting at. And when I lose perspective on gratitude, when I lose perspective of the moment, I know I'm out of sync. I know I feel out of sync. And like I said, I need to stay hopeful and optimistic, because just being alive is giving me reason to do that. Right.
When I think and I could go into a whole nother hour with you on this, but whatever we want to call it, but let's just call it our ego, our voice in our head that we like to beat ourselves up with because of what we didn't do, what we should have done, et cetera, et cetera. All those things, if you think about, are from the past. Right. And if we spend too much time there, we're living in the past. And our hopes of what we wish for and what we want are the future. But today is where we are right now, and what actions we can take to maybe help get to some of those hopes, not to get to the hope, but to get towards the hope. One step closer is all we need to be focused on. And sometimes that might be thinking that we need to climb the hill, and that one step we can't take because there's a rock right in front of us, and we take a step to the left, and all of a sudden we see this beautiful lake, and we forget about wanting to go to the top, because the lake is what we were after the whole time.
Right. Yeah. See, it's beautiful. I mean, it's so amazing that you're able to, I'm absorbing the fact that you experience things a little differently than most people. And I'm envious. I'm envious of seeing it through that lens, because that lens is a very powerful lens.
I always tell people, Peter, that I wasn't like this because of cancer. I started this like about 8 years ago, started practicing a little bit more mindfulness, a little bit more consciousness. And when I did that, it helped prepare me for when I heard you have cancer.
Right.
And having heard those 3 words and having gone through this experience, it's helped me even more. But that's that continual learning, right? Of understanding how we can become more present, how we can look at opportunities instead of problems, instead of, how can we get out of our mind that's beating ourselves up and move it to a place of what did we learn from it and where can we take it?
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, my friend. Thank you for sharing that. I want to share something with you right now. Maybe you can tell me who this beautiful soul is. Who's this?
That is my wife, Lori.
I know that, is she going to be mad at me for putting that up? I wonder.
No, that's one of her approved pictures. I didn't send you any of that.
You didn't send me anything. That's what I'm thinking. I went out did a quick little
approves of that one. No, it's just, I mean, it's both of our second marriages, and I don't think I truly knew what having a partner in life was like until I met her. And I'm not going to say it was always been smooth. We've had our ups and downs, especially early on. But I think that, you know, I mean, I could not have gone through the last 18 months without her with me. I mean, she has been so, you know, at first she was spent every night crying because of the thought of not having me around. And nothing's changed. That's still there, but she just doesn't have it front and center in her mind anymore. And, you know, when people talk about the pandemic and how it, you know, they felt isolated, I think it brought us closer together. And I think having cancer brought us closer together. I mean, I jokingly say that we've been together for 19 years now. And I always joke that, you know, the one thing about being with her is for the first decade, we never even talked about or saw each other go to the bathroom or fart or anything. And, you know, in the last 18 months, you know, about half of our conversations are about bathroom humor because of my issues with colon cancer.
Or it's taken a turn for a totally different conversation, but you're absolutely right. I mean, it's almost, it's funny. If you don't put a funny spin on it, you wouldn't think about it, but it is amazing how, again, protected you can be about things that probably aren't that very important. And then all of a sudden they become funny because it's like, well, you know, we all know what we do. We're all human beings, and we're all connected, and especially someone who you live with and you're obviously married to and things like that. I'm just curious, and this is just because I'm fascinated with this thought, and maybe it might help somebody listening to this right now. Any thoughts you can share with the supporting people, the supporting spouses, the brothers, the sisters, the spouse specifically, or significant other and partner and so on? Anything you can share to someone who might be, because you've watched your spouse go through being with you, and maybe you can share to help them go through it with their loved one.
Yeah, I have a friend who has a podcast, and it's called We Have Cancer. And it was because he was telling his guy that he knew about how much this impacted him and his wife, even though he was the one with cancer. And the guy just told him, he goes, "You need to call your podcast We Have Cancer." And I met him early on after I got diagnosed, and he's local here in Tampa. And I think that's the one thing that really changed my focus on everything and helped me be more, I mean, I'm a very empathetic person, but sometimes with her the least. And I think I realized that wasn't and shouldn't be my pass, is because she's just the one with me, to be able not to do that to her. And so when she did have her moments of getting sad, I mean, I could tell her my mindset, but I couldn't expect her to be in my mindset. I needed to appreciate where she was and what she was going through just as much as she was appreciating what I was going through. And I think as I've done that over the last 18 months, it just helped me realize, for as close as we are, how much more work and how much harder and more effort I need to put into our relationship that I probably haven't been giving.
That's a powerful message, my friend. And you've helped somebody today right now with that. I promise you that. And I'm sure she appreciates hearing that as well. That's an amazing message. I wish her great peace on this journey with you, and strength and grace. And I just want to send that out to you both and your family and so on. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Again, very, very powerful conversation so far. I'll ask you one last thing, because it's just I just love asking people this question, and I think you can share something magical with us right now. Finish this sentence for me, if you can. Finish this sentence for me. I love my life because
I'm living it my way.
Is there any greater thing?
I didn't for many years of my life, and I can fully say that I am living it my way today.
That's fantastic. Listen, that's a great message for all of us to learn and to try to understand. Again, just live the way you want to be here. I mean, if we have this one time around kind of thing, no matter what your beliefs are. I mean, we're here right this second. This is it. And that's a very powerful reminder for all of us and so on. There's so many amazing people in the comments. I just want to acknowledge every single one of you that have been putting up comments and so on. I know they're here supporting you. There's Rose here in Connecticut. Tim is an amazing he/for/she and supporter of my Women to Follow movement. So there's the example that Stefan talked about, that you spend your time helping other people. You know, I mean,
and this is Rose's passion, her vision. It all started at I think the beginning of the pandemic, and she just started this list of, women to follow, and I started adding people on there, and I love what she's doing and bringing focus to. I've always been a big supporter of equality, and I will love the day when we don't have to make it women to follow. It's just a humans to follow list. And we don't have to classify whether we're male, female, non-binary or anything. It's just we're all human and we're all here together. But while we are still in that space, I love what she's creating.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I want to put up these comments because I want to make sure you acknowledge that there's a lot of people here. Sounds like through this, you didn't fall into the rabbit hole of depression, and that may have been a difference. And that could be why you're still here. I have faith in faith. I have faith in you. Will get what you need. So she has faith. You'll get what you need. Sorry. And I do too as well. Thank you, Melody. That's a beautiful message as well. Here's a person who wants to send you something, sharing Tim's story. Peter, you know this person, Paula, I'm thinking. My brother-in-law had colorectal cancer, had diagnosed at the same time as Tim. Unfortunately, Pat is no longer with us, but that's one of the reasons it's so important for me to support Tim. So bless you, Paula. That's a powerful story. Thank you for sharing that. And
it's never easy to lose anybody, but she's still remains so positive and supportive. And, a lot of people, like Melody said, could kind of clam up and, get into a depression over it. But I think Paul is one of those people that, again, it's not saying that we don't get sad and we don't have our down moments, but still looks at everything, as what can we do with this instead of, why did this happen to me?
Yeah, it's very powerful indeed. Wishing you the very best, the swiftest healing to you, Tim, sending prayers and a healing light your way. I have a funny feeling that is my beautiful spouse, Renuka. I can tell her language. I really can. I don't know if it's her, but I don't want to give credit where credit's due, but I'm gonna say it's probably her, because she's always making sure that people feel healing light around you. So she's sending her best to you, I'm sure.
I'm receiving gratitude.
There you go. Absolutely. I'm looking through all these beautiful comments here. I just want to tell everybody I'm going to go through them all. I'll make sure I reach out to every single one of you. Tim, you're a wonderful guiding light in our community. I'm keeping you in my heart. I'll share your need for a liver donor with my friends. And Terry, thank you so much. That's the purpose of the show, and that's the purpose of what we're doing right now. Great to see Patrick here. Thanks, Patrick, for being here. Global Village, indeed. Yeah, there's so many amazing things here being said. Community message, there we go. Yeah, great podcast and community message. Great fortune in finding a donor. Absolutely, it's all about community, everybody. If there's one thing that we can do, and there we go. And then Stefan's still kicking around here. He's still adding his 2 cents. Which is great.
KFG is something I learned from the first group I belonged to on Facebook called Man Up to Cancer. It's just a men's cancer group for caregivers, survivors, family members. And the saying was #KFG. And for the longest time, like a few weeks, I went on seeing it all the time. And I finally messaged the guy who, one of the admins who invited me in there. And I was like, what does that mean? And it basically is keep effing going. And so that's why, I told Stefan what that means. And so I didn't want to use that language on your show. I didn't know if it was appropriate or not, but I'm like, it is truly. And some people say, keep faith going, whatever you want the F to be, you can make it.
Absolutely. Yes.
But it basically just means another way of saying, just don't give up no matter how bad things are. Just keep effing going.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. It's good to know. And hey, listen, depending on what time of day you catch me, that F would change multiple times in my household. Trust me. So if we're out having a pint right now, that would be coming out real quick. Tim McDonald, my friend, my new friend, it's just been a pleasure to have you. I don't know how to kind of put it into words, but when Stefan reached out to me, and I just there's so many sub stories there that just resonated with me when a friend does that for another person. Because Stefan doesn't reach out to me and ask me for he doesn't strike me as that kind of a person. He doesn't strike me to reach out to people just for his own purposes. He just does it for somebody else. So that resonated with me so much, and then I just simply asked myself, what if it were me? And I hope the universe hears that, and maybe somebody in my network who knows somebody in their network reaches out to you, and our prayers are answered here. Any final thoughts? I'm going to put up a whole bunch of things here for people to connect with you. I want to make sure that they know what we're here doing today. The big ask, everybody, is what we're doing. You can reach out to Tim here on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, that is, if you're watching it on LinkedIn, Tim A. McDonald, you can reach out to him there. Here's his email address. You can do it that way. Of course, this is the main website. It gives you all the details of the ideal candidate that they're looking for, the person that might be able to help. If you go to timsliver.com, you'll get all that information there. There's a phone number.
Any doubts, the number to call to the hospital is on there. They are much more the experts than I am. I just know what I've learned from them. So if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to call them. They are more than happy to answer.
Absolutely. And again, the big ask today is the concept of which is, it's probably new to a lot of people, but we can actually help somebody when it comes to organ transplant in real time, and in while we're alive and while we're living. And I think that's just magical in itself. And the fact that there are doctors and medical people that just know how to do all of this, it's magic. I have so much respect for the people, and a shout out to all the people that have been helping you, Tim, on your journey. And I'm just wishing you the best, my friend. I'm just sending you all the positive vibes I can, and I just hope someone hears this, and I hope something great comes from this.
Well, I can't thank you enough. And, I was, your words right before you started giving all my contact information about how somebody you knew that might know somebody in their network that might know somebody in their network. And I don't have it on my arm because I can't get a tattoo while I'm on chemo, but my next tattoo on my forearm is going to be a bunch of ripples. And if we keep creating ripples, we start seeing the ripples turn into waves. And when other people start seeing those waves, they start creating ripples. And then that turns into a massive movement of a tidal wave. And that tidal wave is the impact that we create. And so I just want everybody to remember that, if you just cast one pebble into the water, it's probably not going to make a difference. But if it's important to you and you keep making those ripples over and over again, soon you're going to inspire others to create their ripples, and soon others are going to join in, and you're going to create and see the impact of the movement that you just created.
Super well said, my friend. Ripples. I love it. We're all creating ripples here today, and I hope one finds its way to your shore, my friend. Thank
you so much, Peter. I can't tell you how much this means to me. Honestly, Stefan connecting us and you being willing to do this has just been so grateful, and I look forward to, staying connected with you for the rest of my life, and hopefully that'll be a while that we'll be around here together.
I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to hold you to it. Let's push it out to a couple decades, and we'll chat. Next I come down Tampa. I love the Tampa Bay area. You mentioned St. Pete's earlier in your conversation. I've been there once or twice, and love that whole Bay area and so on. Less the hockey team. Just had to throw that in there. Less the hockey team. Just got to end it on a fun note. We got to end it on a fun note. Thank you everybody for joining us. This has been an amazing conversation, and we hope that it somehow impacted you. If you even found the message in there, is to continue building your community, reaching out to your community, and know that you can make a difference. And as you said so well, Tim, that little pebble, let's all do our part by just tossing a little pebble. It reminds me of the beautiful starfish story as well. You might not be able to save them all, but maybe we can save them one. And maybe that's the whole message here today. I'll see you on the other side. You stick around, Tim, or I'm going to catch up with Stefan in the green room. We'll have a quick little chat, which will be awesome. Everybody else, we're going to make sure we read all the comments. I'm going to go in there. Tim, I hope you can go in there and find there might be somebody in there somewhere, somehow that's one degree away. And I'm going to make sure that I do the same. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. Share if you can. I know it's been a long broadcast, but hey, listen, it's an important subject matter, and certainly don't want to belittle the importance of anything that might be said that might impact one person to make a difference. So never want to rush the process here of reaching someone and touching someone's heart. It takes time. It takes time to do that. So I love doing it. You know how it works around here, everybody. Just be kind out there. I mean, that's all you have to do. I mean, that's how we ended around here, Tim, just so you know. Just be kind.
It's pretty simple.
Just be kind out there, everybody. Just be kind. It really matters. And we'll see you on the other side. Thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been a pleasure and a joy. And I think I'll end on a positive note. I always try to think of I always try to end on a positive note. That is for sure. But I think being kind is always a positive message. So everybody out there, just do your best. Be kind out there. We'll see you on the other side, Tim. Good to see you, everybody. Have a good day. Cheers. Take care. Let's just be kind out there. Let's be kind. Be kind out there. Just be kind out there. Just be kind out there, everybody. Be kind out there. Be kind out there. Be kind out there, everyone. Be kind. As I always say to everybody, hey, just be kind out there. Let's just be kind out there. Be kind out there, everyone. Be kind out there. Just be kind out there, everybody. Just be kind. Just be kind out there. Just be kind. Be kind. Just be kind out there. Just be kind out there, everybody. Just be kind. Be kind out there, everyone. Be kind out there. Just be kind out there, everyone. Just be kind. That's all you have to do. Just be kind out there. Always end the show like this. Just be kind, everybody. Just be kind out there.